The letter that wrote the writer. On inspiration as dictation. A poet in his 38th year sat down to write a poem about his dead father. He had been trying to write this poem for 10 years. He had begun it in various forms, perhaps 50 times. He had abandoned each attempt. The poem would not come. The father, who had been a difficult man, did not consent to be written about in any of the ways the poet had tried. On the night in question, the poet sat down at his desk at 10 o'clock in the evening. He set out his paper. He took up his pen. He prepared himself mentally for another failure. He wrote a first line. The first line was not the one he had intended. He paused. He wrote a second line. The second line was also not the one he had intended. The second line was, in fact, in a register the poet had not used in his other poems, a register slower, older, with a kind of weight in the syllables that did not exactly sound like him. He kept writing. He wrote for 3 hours. He did not at any point in the 3 hours choose a word. He felt the pen move. He watched the lines appear. He read them as they came. They were better than anything he had written. They were also not, in any sense he could have defended his. At 1 o'clock in the morning, the poem ended. He sat with it for an hour without moving. The poem was about his father, but not in any of the ways the poet had been trying for 10 years. It was about his father as the father had been, the difficult man, the silent man, the man the poet had been afraid of for most of his childhood. But the poem did not, in fact, complain. It did not accuse. It did not, in the lazy sense, forgive. It simply saw the father. It looked at him from a height the poet did not, in his daily life, occupy. From that height the father was visible as he had been. A man, frightened, doing his best, often failing, occasionally cruel, occasionally tender, ordinary, real. The poet read the poem again. He said aloud to the empty room, "I did not write this." A voice answered him. It was not exactly a voice. It was more like a thought that had arrived in his head with the confidence of a voice. The voice said, "No, you did not write me. You composed me. You supplied the hand. I have been waiting in you for 10 years. I could not come until the hand was steady. The hand became steady tonight for 1 hour. I came. The poem is mine. The hand is yours. We made this together." "Whose are you?" said the poet. "I am the deep thing in you that knew all along what your father was. You have been afraid to know. The poem is what the knowing looks like when it is allowed to arrive. I have not before tonight been allowed. Tonight you were tired enough to let me. I am grateful. I have wanted to come for a long time." The poet sat with this for a long while. He did not that night sleep. In the morning he made a copy of the poem. He kept the original. He sent the copy to his small publisher, who published the poem in a slim volume some months later. The volume was the poet's best book. It was reviewed quietly but warmly. The poet did not, when reviewers asked him about it, claim it as his own work exactly. He said vaguely that the poem had come to him. The reviewers did not press him. He wrote, in the years after, perhaps a dozen poems of that quality. They came in the same way. He would sit down at his desk late when he was tired. He would prepare for failure. The voice would come. The pen would move. He would supply the hand. He stopped in time, being able to write the way he had written before. The voice had spoiled him. He had tasted the kind of writing that arrived from the deep place, and the other kind, the kind one composed by intention, no longer satisfied him. He wrote less. He wrote better. He died in his 54th year. His unpublished papers, when his widow went through them, contained perhaps 30 poems of the kind that had come in the deep voice. She published them with the help of his publisher. They became, in the second half of his century, one of the most loved small books of poems in the language. They were read at funerals. They were memorized by schoolchildren. They were quoted by people who had never read poetry. The widow understood by then what the poems had been. She did not say to the reviewers what the poet had not said. She let the poems be his. She knew also that they were not in the deepest sense his. They were the voice that had come. It had come into one man for 16 years, and then it had gone. It had not, the widow believed, ceased to exist. It was somewhere waiting to come into another. She hoped it would. She thought, in her old age, that perhaps it was already arriving in someone she had not met, in another country, in another language. She liked, in her old age, to think this. She thought it because it was true. The letter writes the writer, the pen moves. The hand supplies, the voice that comes is not in the deepest sense yours, you supplied the hand was steady for 1 hour, the voice came, the poem is. The voice the hand is yours, together you made a thing neither of you could have made alone. The voice has been waiting in you for 10 years. It will come. When you are tired enough to let it, the work is to be tired in the right way.